The topic of hormonal balance is no doubt a buzzy one for dancers. And the reason, well, there's actually many, some of which often relate to can various food choices help us to promote hormonal balance? This and more is what we're going to be chatting about today, with hopes that you'll have a better understanding about what it means for dancers to promote hormonal balance. Let's get into it.
I'm Rachel Fine, registered dietitian nutritionist and founder of To The Point Nutrition. A dancer's performance is a direct result of hard work and motivation. So where does food fit into this? There's a lot of myths and a ton of antiquated ideals, and I'm here to dispel those.
Hi, I'm Rachel Fine. I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and specialist in all things related to dancer health and, of course, food and nutrition. I created The Healthy Dancer as an all-in-one platform for dancers to learn how they can best utilize food as a supportive tool in both their health goals and their performance goals, so long those goals are obviously realistic. Today, we're covering the topic of hormonal balance and everything dancers should know, especially as it relates to their daily meal plans. A little background. Hormones are the chemical messengers that are produced by your body's endocrine system. They help to regulate most metabolic processes, everything from your appetite and digestion to even your body's ability to support strong bones, reproduce, and even maintain optimal circulation. Throughout any given day, our hormones are constantly fluctuating, with the biggest surges often experienced during puberty, so those adolescent years, and of course during pregnancy. Hormonal balance, as a very general term, occurs when the body is producing enough of the various hormones needed to adequately execute the metabolic functioning that it needs to get you through the day. It's nearly impossible for me to name all of the body's various hormones in this one chat. Instead, I'd like to decipher between a few groups of hormones that dancers can most recognize and benefit from learning more about. Hunger hormones like leptin, or that feel full hormone, and ghrelin that kicks in when we're feeling hungry and in need of an energy replenishment. These hormones, among many others, help to regulate feelings of hunger and fullness and ultimately energy balance or caloric balance in your body. In other words, they're part of a group of appetite hormones that help to communicate the various times throughout your day that your body needs energy from a meal or snack. Thyroid hormones, like growth hormone, regulate our body's metabolism and body composition. Metabolism is like an umbrella term that represents the intrinsic chemical reactions that support a multitude of systems in your body. So to support a functioning metabolism, your body burns calories from your food for energy to fuel all of those basic metabolic needs, alongside, of course, other physical needs like your dancing. Basic metabolic needs, these refer to things like breathing, circulation, and even your ability to think clearly throughout the day. Many factors play a role in how your body utilizes this energy to support its metabolism. Your genetic blueprint is one such factor that plays a role, along with your age, your specific body composition, such as your level of fat mass or your level of muscle mass, your activity level, and of course, even your eating behaviors. All of these impact your body's metabolism and the hormones that work to regulate it. Reproductive hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone not only support reproductive health or the ability for us as humans to reproduce, but also play a major role in a dancer's ability to support strong bone mass. Something I've previously spoken about surrounding the topic of relative energy deficiency in sport and the risks that we often see when dancers are underfueling, something we'll chat about soon. So what happens when hormones are imbalanced? Well, some ways that we can identify hormonal imbalances include irregular menstrual cycles, and of course that's one of the many consequences of that syndrome that I just mentioned, relative energy deficiency in sport, where the body conserves energy by muting processes not otherwise needed for basic survival, like reproduction, and therefore this is where we see irregular or even non-existent periods. Other signs of hormonal imbalances can include obvious changes to your hair, like thinning hair, severe changes in mood, maybe severe or drastic changes in your weight over a shorter period of time, and another big one, recurring bone injuries like stress fractures. Now, I want to make it very clear that each of these signs in of itself might reflect something more than just hormonal imbalances, and if you're experiencing any of these, it's highly encouraged that you reach out to a licensed medical provider for more information and workup. But for many of these signs, at least two of them, particularly relating to bone health and irregular periods, we often see underfueling as being a major contributor. The bottom line, restrictive eating behaviors, whether they're unintentional, like from a busy schedule, or intentional, like from disordered eating, can result in hormonal dysregulation. What else do we know about hormonal imbalance? Stress can play a role. Your body's stress response is its way of responding to a perceived threat. And what happens at this time of perceived threat is your hypothalamus, a tiny region in your brain, triggers a cascade of hormones, including adrenaline and cortisol. When levels of these hormones are chronically elevated, such as with chronic stress, there could be a relationship to hormonal dysregulation. Now, let's relate this more specifically to dance. Dance in of itself, like any other intense exercise, is technically considered a form of physical stress on the body. Not just that, but emotional stress, such as the experience of weight stigma at auditions, at costume fittings, in the studio, the stress of experiencing food insecurities, and even the stress experienced from a challenged body image can impact your hormonal balance. So while the body's short-term stress response, such as to physical injury, is self-limiting, chronic or prolonged exposure to high levels of a stress-induced state can disrupt things. So in addition to prioritizing adequate nourishment through your meals and snacks each day, a couple other activities that dancers are encouraged to partake in to help alleviate feelings of stress include speaking to a licensed mental health professional, and even other activities that any dancer can partake in throughout their day, of course with the privilege of time, like journaling, listening to music, and spending time with friends. But let's uncover the biggest question. Are there specific foods that dancers can include in their meal plan to help with hormonal balance? Well, first and foremost, what everything boils down to is ensuring, and I've said it multiple times before, that your meals and snacks support you from a caloric and nutritional standpoint. This essentially means that you are eating enough throughout the day, and unfortunately, most dancers severely underestimate their calorie needs. So working alongside a licensed nutrition professional, such as a registered dietitian nutritionist, is incredibly encouraged to first identify how you can better support your body's caloric needs. Remember, baseline nourishment, this is the first and foremost line of defense to promoting hormonal balance. Now, when it comes to some other foods that we can incorporate into our meal plans, the literature is pretty limited as to whether specific single foods can help us do this, despite a lot of claims that you might hear or see on food labels. With that said, there are some priorities that we can think about in our daily meal plans, in addition to adequate nourishment and getting in enough calories throughout the day, that can help. So first are foods rich in B vitamins, many of which include complex carbohydrates, oatmeal being one such example. Oatmeal especially is rich in fiber, specifically soluble fiber that helps to promote stable blood sugar throughout the day. This can seriously help with the regulation of those appetite hormones, but particularly a hormone known as insulin. Insulin is a hormone that, when under normal conditions, helps the body to absorb nutrients, particularly carbohydrates, for energy. Insulin sensitivity refers to the degree to which your body is able to absorb those carbohydrates. Fun fact, your body's insulin sensitivity increases with exercise and movement, making it a key factor of helping to promote energy replenishment in the optimal recovery window after dancing. Another component to foods that might help, omega-3 fatty acids, which are one type of unsaturated fat that actually work as precursors to the various hormones that play a role in both blood clotting and your body's ability to contract and relax arterial walls. That's why these fats are also known as being heart healthy. And a couple examples of foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids include fatty fish like tuna, salmon, also avocados, nuts, seeds, and even fortified eggs. Another food that may help with hormonal balance, full-fat dairy products. Remember, association doesn't necessarily mean causation, so we need to take even this type of research with a grain of salt. But there are some studies to support the intake of full-fat dairy like full-fat milk and full-fat yogurt with reproductive health. In addition to this, the added source of fat, especially in comparison to fat-free alternatives, enhances the body's ability to absorb fat-soluble vitamins, particularly vitamin D, which is also rich in dairy products and also plays a role in bone health. We also know that fat, from a general perspective, plays a major role in your body's anabolic ability to build hormones. So foods like butter, oils, nuts, seeds can all be beneficial. And the final consideration for your meal plan will be foods that are rich in magnesium. Now, I don't want you to take this out of context. Remember, a food-first approach is always encouraged. And of course, research still remains limited. But magnesium is a nutrient that helps to support levels of serotonin in the brain, that feel-good hormone that ebbs and flows throughout your day. Foods rich in magnesium, like peanuts and nuts, as mentioned before, are also rich in fat, which obviously plays a key role in hormonal balance in of itself. I hope you've enjoyed this chat about how to promote hormonal balance. And while I covered some meal plan considerations for dancers, I cannot stress enough that the first and foremost focus will always be to ensure adequate nourishment throughout your day. And that means working alongside a licensed nutrition professional, a registered dietitian nutritionist, to ensure that you are getting enough in throughout your day. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon.